Call the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is roll call. Mr. Moran is here. Mr. Rathel?
Here.
Mr. Van Oz? Here. Mr. Tenova? Here. Mr. Mans?
Here.
Mr. Hornby? Here. Mr. Filarski? Here. Item number 3 is any additions or deletions to the agenda. Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mr. Mans, support by Mr. Tenova. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 18th, 2019. Motion by Mr. Van Oz. Support by Mr. Mans. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 5 is our financial report for March 2019. Everyone should have in their packet the financial report. And for our revenue, we have a budgeted amount of $977,957. Our year-to-date revenue is $799,892, which is just under 82% of our budgeted for year-to-date. And our expenditures for the year are budgeted at $977,957. With our expenditures and encumbrances year-to-date are $856,296, which is just under 88%. We have a capital reserve as of the end of March of $573,620, and we have a past due rent summary as of April 8th of $6,067. With that, Mike, is there any comments?
This kind of ties into my action item or manager report under 6A. Obviously, this is our last month for closing out the fiscal year 18-19. At our previous commission meeting, I forecasted we were kind of waiting to see how a couple of things balanced out. I estimated we were going to go into retained earnings for $54,000. As it sits here, it's about $56,000, so I was fairly close. I did, per the commission's discussions previously, write off all of the legal action that we've been sitting on for several years. So you'll see that's removed below your past due rent summary there. So we took the liberty of writing all that off. Again, going over the budget, we budgeted to go into retained earnings for about $200,000 for capital improvements. We completed 50%, or $100,000 of those capital improvements, and ended up only having to go into retained earnings for the $54,000 that you see there on your budget. So overall, pretty happy with how the fiscal year turned out, and looking forward to the following year. I do not have the fuel inventory numbers on your bottom left for you because we've been having a lot of issues with the phone lines lately at the fuel farm. So I should have that up and running. We had a 1 week where the fuel tank wouldn't pump fuel for a credit card remotely, so we had to manually override that and process all the transactions, but we have that line fixed. The line coming from there into my office to download all the sales is still down, so we're trying to get that repaired with Windstream, who's the phone provider, but is also in bankruptcy. So it hasn't been fast, but we're getting there. I should have those numbers updated for you. There is some final balancing, talking to the finance department, that they go through on their audit. So, we have some fuel inventory, but then there's also some closeout expenses. So Ann's best guess at the budget is where it's at now. It's pretty much a wash on that $56,000.
Any comments or questions for Mike on the budget?
I have a question.
Mr. Rathel.
So, Mike, on our retained earnings, okay, I know that we only, out of the $100,000 that we budgeted, we're only going to need $56,000, right?
Correct.
So we went this last month. We dropped about $39,500. Was that monies out of our capital reserves part of that $56,000? come that wasn't the 56,000?
That's my understanding, and the final closeout will rectify all that. But I believe that went into part of that payment because, as you can see, the revenues cleared the expenditure, so it's balancing out the rest of the year.
Right, which is why I'm asking the question, because it seems to me the way that we're here now with this report, we should have the entire 56,000 of our retained earnings to balance our budget.
Right, you're saying coming out of last month's capital reserves.
Right.
Again, going back to the finance department, I think that's like the final closeout that she's talking about. So we're showing that 56,000. She needs to do the final balancing on her end to come out of there. So
So we have roughly another $16,000 that have to come out of our capital reserve.
I don't know that. I'd have to check on it for you.
You'll have a final report next month for us then, Mike?
I should. Yep. Depends on how long it takes for the final closeout with the audit stuff, but I'll have an answer on that for you shortly.
So I guess, just simply speaking, end of February, we had $613,000 of capital reserves or retained earnings. At the end of this budget year, when we're closed totally out, given that we have not spent any more money on anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should reduce that by $56,000 if that's the number that we need to balance.
I'm trying to follow along too, but I'm also looking at the accounts receivable going down between the 2 months. That's definitely a factor, writing off all the legal action, but that's not that total amount that's in there. So
So how much of the legal action did you write off?
all of that was left.
Do you have a number on that?
I don't, not with me. I'd have to look at previous months' retained earnings. I believe that was around 12 grand. Yeah, 12 or 13,000 in that ballpark.
So it's $12,000. Then on this financial report here, we have $27,500 roughly of money not really attributed to anything other than retained earnings to balance our budget. So if that's the case, then we need another $28,000 out of this 573.
Understanding of it as well. So,
I'm just trying to get a,
Trying to get a grip,
picture
yeah.
of our retained earnings after this.
Correct. That's my understanding right now as well, and I'll confirm that with finance for you guys and follow up. Make a note.
Five. Any other questions or comments for Mike or on the financial report? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file. Motion by Mr. Van Oz. Supported by Mr. Filarski to receive and file the March 2019 financial report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 6 is the manager's report. 6A is the budget closeout review. Mike?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I pretty much covered what I wanted to say on that item under financial report. I will add one little marketing thing to the commission, I guess, in place of that. I can come up and show you guys. You can see that. This is a flyer that I had Angela put together to go into the circular that the Recreation Department puts out. I believe it's a few times a year. So the airport gets ad space in that and goes out to every household on the island. So the top one you'll see is basically a advertisement for our commercial spaces that we have for lease. And then the bottom section, because we each get like a one-page deal, is for the drive-in movie at the airport. And again, we established that date Saturday, August 24th. So if the commission wants to pencil that in your calendars, we may need a few volunteers for that event, or just come down and enjoy the movie night if you have some kids. But wanted to get that in front of you guys and show you some of the stuff that Angela's been working on. And I think the marketing stuff's going well so far.
And when is this going to be published, Mike?
That should go out, I think, in the next 2 weeks. That goes out.
Comments or questions on that? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6B, which is the Building 63 subdivide and the Valio lease update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief update on this. Building 63 subdivide is moving forward. We've added some stuff in with the architect on Building 61, 62 that the commission previously talked about, turning that into a warehouse space. I thought it would be beneficial if we bid the two projects together. On the updates, that building needs, we discussed some roof work, the electrical from the previous fire that was in the building, and a few other minor things. So the architect did their final walkthrough to get the construction drawings and diagrams together to go out for bids this past Wednesday. I talked to Sarnacki and Associates today. They estimate having the full packet done and ready with drawings ready to go 1 month from today on the 20th. So that'd be Monday the 20th. So that was the last day he thought he would be having that. So hopefully it's sooner. And I'll get it to the commission as soon as we have it for review and then move forward with going out for bids. I've instructed him to break the bid down into two options, one for a 4-unit, one for the full 8-unit that we've been looking at, just to get a price comparison on both, and then a separate price for the other warehouse work that we want. So that's what he's working on now. I owe him a few final things, drawings on the other warehouse, and locating a few. We've had a difficulty locating one of the water meters, some minor punch list items, but that is moving forward. I think our original estimate was hoping to get out for construction June, July. So I think we're, depending on the contractor's schedule, if we have the full bid packet ready to go on the 20th, we could advertise for 2 to 3 weeks and then hopefully be in that ballpark for construction. Obviously, we're kind of at the whim of a construction contractor at that point, but I think that's a good time frame and we're on track.
So is the expectation, Mike, that we would have bids back prior to our May meeting?
Correct, to be the third Monday of the month. I think the third Monday is the 20th, yep. I'd hope to have it for you for approval on the 20th.
Or at least for review.
Correct.
Mr. Rathel.
So I think from a timing standpoint, the storage year, right, starts when people are putting their cars and boats away for the winter. That building 61, 62, the front building, would have to be secured for storage to start that year. Because if we don't get the facility cleared out before all these units or all these cars and trucks and boats and everything get put away from storage, then we're stuck for another whole year of not being able to do anything with the units at 63. So I think we need to prioritize our project list with, depending on when we can start, but that, being the most important thing right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike, maybe if you could look on a calendar and kind of schedule this out as to when you think events are going to happen, so we can maybe review that at the next meeting.
Sure. I'll email you guys a breakdown of estimated dates and all that stuff, and see if we need to have an additional meeting or anything like that to get the ball rolling, because I definitely don't want to sit for 2 or 3 weeks on the bid packet stuff. I think we want to get that out as soon as we can and get it advertised if we're good with it.
But there is one problem with that too, and that is that if we put the money into 61, 62 to bring storage over there, that's more than likely going to be coming out of our capital reserves. The revenue generated with our units that we're putting in 63 start paying that back, right? So this isn't, do one and then wait another year to do another. Right. I mean, it's literally has to follow quickly behind that to get revenue from these new buildings.
Mike, do you know on the bids when they go out, are they going to include, besides the price, are they going to include a time frame?
That's my intent, yes, with Sarnacki. And then also like a flow schedule of what we want done in order, of each building, which if we want 61, 62 done first and then into the units in 63, I definitely intend to stipulate that in the bid packet.
I have a question. Do we go out with both of those projects together, or do we separate them and then have companies bid on one or another or both? My
intent was to bid them together to see if we can get a better price on it. The a lot of the stuff going on, some of the things going on in 61, 62, the warehouse on Grow Road, like if we do a roof coating, for example, we're not doing a roof coating on 63. So, I mean, that's going to be a different subcontractor to whoever we're using. So, I mean, I think a lot of this work can coincide and go on at the same time. Doing the electrical upgrades to the building and doing the build out. I mean, those would tie in together. So I think I need to rely on the architect to provide some of the phasing of those construction projects and see how stuff lines up. But my intent was to bid them together, just to have it all in one and have it roll a little more smoother. That way, I'm not tracking 2 or 3 different contractors on different projects. I have one prime to go to, and all the issues go down the chain.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Mr. Filarski.
So Valero is going to be out. Is that correct?
The Valio deal at this time and stage has been put on hold with the redoing and retooling of Flat Rock Assembly when Ford made that announcement. So it's not necessarily done or out, but it's on hold at this stage.
Part of my concern is running these things obviously and building these on an income basis. So, incurring, all of this debt, and if we have some hiccups, for, the bridge construction that we all know is coming, when we have issues, these things out. The Valero situation kind of makes me take a step back, because I was thinking that was going to help cash flows. So, I would just advise to proceed slowly, go ahead with the cost. Really want to take a second look at this.
Sure.
Going full steam ahead.
Understood.
I think we all had that same thought. So, anything else? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 7, which is our action items. 7A is the Fuller Frame Photography office lease, and we have a resolution before us that reads, based upon the recommendation from the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Manager, the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby approves a lease between Fuller Frame Photography and the Groseal Municipal Airport. A formal lease will be developed pending approval by the Commission. Terms of the proposed lease agreement are listed in the history, purpose, and explanation section of this resolution.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel. Supported by Mr. Hornby. Mike, we've got a 1-year lease, and it's for how many square feet is it? The total?
174 square feet.
174.
It's in the description there. Yep. The tenant is already an existing tenant. We signed, I believe, 2 commission meetings ago. We approved a lease for the initial office. It's a small photography studio that does some child sessions and as well as some dog and pet stuff. The business is growing. It was first a household run business. Now it was in the office, and they're needing additional storage space for some props and things like that. So very low use office just down the hall from them, and it's good to see our current tenants growing. So with both of the leases on the agenda tonight, the south side of Hangar 2 will only have 1 office left available for it. So the only couple things I'll be looking at coming up in the coming months, if we continue to lease or if we get full on that side, we have the FBO employees currently doing the cleaning in that facility. I need to see if they're going to be able to keep up with the new demand of tenants that we have over there. In addition to that, on the north side, we're getting more occupancy over there. We still have 1 large dance studio on the 2nd floor that needs to get leased out, and then 1 or 2 small offices. The north side will need some refreshing tile in the entryway, and both sides probably need to get one of the bathrooms done. The construction contractor in the south side of the facility, and I've had some conversation about doing it at cost and them doing the bathroom or maybe doing some kind of a rental credit for a deal. So I'll look at some of those and see if either of them are worth their while. But I think as these buildings fill up and the market comes back a little bit, we need to look at doing a very minor refresh on the restrooms and one of the entryways in there. So you may see that coming in the next month or 2 for me.
Questions on the lease? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Athel, supported by Mr. Hornby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 7B is the AV Bioinnovation LLC office lease. We have a resolution before us that reads, based upon the recommendation from the Groseal Airport Commerce Park manager, the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby approves a lease between AV Bioinnovation and the Groseal Municipal Airport. A formal lease will be developed pending approval by the Commission. Terms of the proposed lease agreement are listed in the history, purpose, and explanation section of this lease. In this resolution. Sorry.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel. Supported by Mr. Mans. Under discussion, Mike, this is for another 1-year lease for
338 square foot on this one, Mr. Chair.
338 square feet.
And both leases have a 1-year option. AV Bioinnovation is a company that's owned by a resident here on Groseal. I had some questions. We've been actually talking for 2 years as the business developed. It's a female-owned business here on the island. They do medical testing equipment, so there'll be some final assembly and testing on the actual equipment in there. I had some questions, obviously, on making sure we're not having chemical testing or anything like that, from a any bio concerns there. The tenant has expressed interest in a larger space. I've explained to her the build-out going on in Building 63, and she basically said she'd be willing to commit to one of the 2,000 square foot units out of the gate there. So that is a good potential moving forward with this tenant. I think the office is kind of the mid-ground waiting for that to be done. So she'll be happy with this for a year. If the other unit becomes available, definitely interested in moving in. So that's some good news.
And she would move out of this space into
Correct.
the new one. She wouldn't keep both.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions on the lease? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Athel, supported by Mr. Mans. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 8 is our subcommittee reports. Looks like we have none tonight, so we'll move on to the discussion items, which is item number 9A, which is the Island Roots LLC yard storage proposal. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You guys should have a summary in there. If you recall, about 3 or 4 months back now, we approved a lease for Island Roots LLC. They are currently located in our building 61, 62. They were kind of left behind when the cell tower business moved out. We've been accommodating them for a little bit in that building, and we've leased them the yard on Grill Road, which was previously the Vesquez boat yard that we cleaned up. Rich, the owner of Island Roots, has come back to me. If you guys recall, I have both copies I can put up, but I think I included them in your packet. He gave us a drawing of what his intentions are with the yard, some bulk storage, nursery stock, and equipment parking. The original plan in the, and I'll try to pull up a Google Maps here to help us out in a minute. The original plan had a steel lean-to structure being erected in the, what would that be? That would be the southwest corner of the lot. Rich has come back to the airport and myself, stated he's looking for more of an indoor storage solution. The outdoor one won't accommodate what he thought he needed to get done. He needs a place to keep tools and other things out of the elements. So what he's come back to myself and the commission to ask for is installing basically 2 40-foot shipping containers on site, and then there's a company that makes a kit that will put a roof basically over both structures for a parking area in the center. I included both packets, and I included photos of what he's proposing in your packets. Probably put one of those up. See if I can put them down. You can see there these 2 40-foot steel containers with a kind of a garage-type storage in the middle. The only difference in the one he's proposing, it will not have a concrete floor, and it'll just be a stone floor for parking trucks and some other equipment on. And you can see in his plan, see if I can, I apologize too, it didn't scan real well. It's hard to get a good scan of it. But this would be the portion in that corner of the lot that he's talking about, so southwest corner. Grill Road is along this portion of it. But the location he's proposing is pretty well hidden. The only time you would ever see those, I think, would be in the wintertime when some of the sticks get pretty thin in there. But it's going to be mostly hidden from view on Grill Road, and he's proposing a berm on the north side. That obviously, to the north, when the trees get thinned out in the wintertime, some of the residents can see into that yard, so that was the need for the berm there to kind of make that more appealing. He's also committed to painting the structure and the containers, a neutral color that'll blend into the yard. So I personally don't have an issue with this. I mean, the commission's had several proposals for shipping containers in the Commerce Park. But I've kind of felt like a lot of the previous proposals where let's just plop a container in the middle of one of the fields in the Commerce Park and do no aesthetic work to it. Rich has definitely put in some effort into this and fitting it in with the yard and hiding it on the north side with berm and committing to that. So I wanted to bring it to the commission and get your thoughts and feedback on if we're okay with this or if we'd like to see some changes.
Mike, I'm not sure, what's the square footage that's going to be under roof? What's the distance between those two storage units? I see on one thing he's got 24 by 48, but I don't know.
240, so those are two 40-foot 8x8 containers.
Right, but on
I
this,
don't believe he gave me the dimension in between. I have to get back to
Oh.
that one.
For some reason, like,
Enough to park 2 or 3 trucks. Yeah. You can show about 2 or 3 trucks parking wide, so I don't think it's too much room. Yeah, if you look at the,
it's hard to tell by that scale.
yeah. Yeah, and we can put a stipulation on it if you like. I mean, call it 30 feet. If you look at the containers there, you can kind of see the,
Well, the thing about this, okay, is one, there's advantages. It's the best place to put it because no one's gonna see it there. The other,
benefit to it is, instead of having a more permanent lean-to or something, if something ever happens, within a day, this stuff is gone, and then our lot's totally cleared out. So, I've always been against shipping containers, but this is, like you said, the first time I've ever seen something where it kind of makes sense. And, I got, and Jacob could probably understand this too. I'm in the business that ships things in shipping containers. Jacob sets all this stuff up. This is a great reuse of these things. I mean, if you do it right and you make things that can fit in, there is a recycle benefit of this too. And Rich has certainly demonstrated since he's been doing his Lion Roots that he takes care of stuff and landscapes and takes care of his equipment. So I don't have a problem with it.
Good question.
Mr. Mans,
Are these shipping containers going to be leased by Rich, or is he buying them, or what is the...
I got the impression he was purchasing, but I don't know that for a fact.
So this is a kit. You get 2 containers, and then they come in...
I think he's going to buy the container separately, and the roof is a kit system.
Looks like they have roof covering the containers.
Correct. Those are an option, which he told me he was likely going to opt to do just for drainage over the containers. So he told me the only difference from the picture that we see here is he would have a stone floor instead of a poured concrete. So the posts would get footings, but no slab. And I can certainly understand the need for some indoor storage for business like that. I mean, he needs a place to keep his tools and all that. I think it would have been good to have it the first time around, but I can understand him coming back around for it. The neighbor to the west, Mr. Henry's yard, there has a temporary construction trailer that he's had on that site for probably 20 years. He keeps some tools and things like that in there as well.
Are we assuming these posts are in the ground with concrete, or is this floating?
I would assume whatever code is, I would assume concrete.
Mike, what kind of a lot restoration clause do you have in the lease?
The lease states that it has to be returned to original condition received or better. And we also have the stipulation was in the lease for like the previous steel structure, which I think we could just amend to this, is that it can be removed at our request at any time. So if they move out, we can elect to have them remove the structure or leave it in place, whatever we want to do at that time.
so if he builds these berms and then leaves, he's responsible to take those berms down?
Correct. I mean, I guess that's a debate for whether we deem that better or worse condition. I think obviously if you pull the containers in the structure out, then there's a random berm in the middle of the yard, that's a worse condition. But yeah, I mean, that's how I would interpret that language.
Should be our option.
Correct. And I think we can definitely put an amendment paragraph in the lease to cover that with this. You know, we're going to addition this entire structure, so we can add that language in there at that time. We can specify the structure and the berm surrounding it, or however we want to handle that.
We have it as a discussion item, but it should be as an action item.
Correct.
We should, well, take action either to approve or not.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Island Roots project as shown in our outline here, based upon the language that somebody had about returning, what wasn't covered maybe?
The option to restore the yard to previous condition received.
At our option to do
Yeah,
that.
correct.
Is there another, Ted, do you have something else that you?
Fine.
Got a motion by Mr. Rathel, supported by Mr. Tenova. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item number 10, which is the chairman's report. And just want to make a comment that things are moving very slowly on our landscape plan. My understanding that Raines is not yet produced a plan for our landscape architect to move forward. So
Correct. They've been in the field and shot all of the grades and everything, and I'm just waiting on the report from them.
Do they know how important this is,
Yep.
Ron?
well, it seems like nothing's moving very
Should-
fast on
should
this.
Ron-
So we've
should
got
Ron,
to.
maybe put a call in to Ohio.
I
and,
think so.
You know, if not, then Ron's project will linger in perpetuity.
Forever.
and Chris Mans, as the new chairman, would have to get it done.
We will move on to item number 11, which is public comment. See no one in the public tonight, so we will move to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Mans, supported by Mr. Tenova to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries.